Jai.
Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Vrinja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Vrinja Bihari Radha Madhava Vrinja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari
Jaya
Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandan Yashodanandana
Vraja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandan Yashodanandana
Vraja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandan Yashodanandana
Vraja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanajari
Yamuna
Tira
Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanajari Yamuna Tira
Tira
Vanajari
Vanachari
Panjabihari
Jaya
Jaya Radha Madhava
Jaya
Kunja Vihari
Punjabihari Jaya
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Guru
Jaya Prabhupada,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada,
Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari
Hari Bol,
Bol, Hari
Hari
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Namo Vishvat Paramahansa Prabhupada Ashtottr. His Divine Grace Abhay Chana Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Beauty founder Acharya Dev Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Vaishnava Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shri Krishna Guru Bhakti
Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan ki
की जय
श्री श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय श्री श्री
जय
मायापुर धाम की जय
जय
गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय
जय
भक्ति तुलसी महारानी की जय उपस्थित समित गौर भक्तवृंद की जय तथा गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
हरि
बोल
हरि बोल
all glories to
हरे
assembled devotees
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
all glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna
हरे कृष्णा
all glories to assembled devotees Hare Krishna
हरे कृष्णा
all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga all
हरे
glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai
जय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
ओम
Om
नमो
Namo
भगवते
Bhagavate
वासुदेवाय
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
ओम
Om
नमो
Namo
भगवते
Bhagavate
वासुदेवाय
Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare
So today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter number 2, The Activities of King Agnidhara, and we are going to read from text number 10. Okay. Vācam param charana panjarati tirinam.
Vācam param charan panjarati tirinam.
Vācam param charana panjarati tirinam.
Vācam param charana panjarati tirinam.
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamatubhyam.
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vini vitanka bimbe.
Labda kadamba ankavitanka bimbe.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labda kadamba
Kadamba
ruchir
ruchira
ankavitanka bimbe.
Yashyam alanta paridhi kvachavala balkalam te.
Yasam
Yashyam alata paridhi
alantihi kvacha
tvacha valam
balkalamante.
te.
Yashyam alanta paridhi kvachaval kalam te.
Yasam
Yashyam alanta
alantihi
paridhi
kvacha
tvacha valkalam
balkalamante.
te.
Vacham param charana panjarati tirinam.
Vacham
Vacham
param charana panjara titirina.
paridhi
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamatubhyam.
Brahman
Brahman
arupa
arupa
mukharam sarvamatubhyam.
panamatubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
Labdha
Labda
kadamba
kadam
ruchir anka
chiranka
vitanka bimbe.
Yashyam alanta paridhi kachavalakam te.
yasya
Yashyam alanta
alanta
paridhi
paridhi kvacha
Kalam.
charam.
chavalakalam te.
Vacham param charana panjarati tirinam.
Vacham
Vacham
param
param
charanam
charan panjara.
panjaratitirnam.
Brahman arupa mukharam shrinavamardubhyam.
Brahman arupa
Brahma
Brahman
mukharam
arupa
Brahma
shravanam
mukharam
tubhyam.
Labdha kadamba ruchiranka vitanka bimbe.
sarvamatubhyam.
Labdha
Labdha
kadam paruchiram
Kadamba
Labda
Ruchiranga
anka vitanka
bimbe.
bimbe.
Yashyam alanta paridhi kvachaval kalam te.
Yasam
Yasam
alanta
alanta
paridhi
pariti
kvacha
vacha
valamte.
vakalam te.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Vacham param charan panjarati tirinam.
Vacham
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 param
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 charana
charana
Charan
panjarati
pancharati
tirinam.
tirinam.
Panjaratirinam
Brahman arupa mukharam shranvana tubhyam.
Brahman
Brahmanarupa Mukharam
param
Shrinavam
Shranvam
tubhyam.
Labda kadamba ruchir anka vitanka bimbe.
Labdham
Labdha
Labdha
kadamba
kadamba
ruchiranka
ruchir
vitanka
anka
bimbe.
vitanka bimbe.
Yasyamalata paridhi kvacha valkalam te.
Yashyam
Yasyam
alanta
alata
Yasyamalatamati
paridhi
paridhi
kalam
Vajavalkalam
vacha
te.
valkalam te.
Vacham Param Charan Panjar Tittirinam
Vacham
Vacham
param
param
charana
charana
panjarati
panjarati
tirinam.
tirinam.
ब्रह्मानरूपमुखरां शृण्वाम तुभ्यम्
ब्रह्मारूपमुखरां
ब्रह्मानरूपमुखरां
तुभ्यं
लब्धा कदम्बरुचियङ्कविटङ्कबिम्बे
लब्धा
लब्धा
कदम्बरं
कदम्बरुचिराङ्गविताङ्गविम्बे
कविम्बे
यस्यामलातपरिधि क्वच वल्कलं ते
यस्यामलान्तपरिधि
यस्यामलान्तपरिधि
क्वच
वल्कलन्ते
वल्कलं ते
वाचं परं चरणापञ्जरतितिरीणाम्
वाचं
वाचं
परं
परं
चरणपञ्जरतिरीणाम्
चरणपञ्जरतिरीणाम्
ब्रह्मण्यरूपमुखरां शन्वाम तुभ्याम्
ब्रह्माण्यरूपमुखरां
ब्रह्माण्यरूपमुखरां
शृण्वाम
शृण्वामतुभ्याम्
तुभ्यम्
लब्धा कदम्बरुचिर अङ्कावितङ्कबिम्बे
लब्धा
लब्धा
कदम्बरुचिराङ्कविताङ्कबिम्बे
कदम्बरुचिरङ्कबिम्बे
यस्यामलात्परिधि कवचवल्कलं ते
यस्यामलातपरिधि
यस्यामलान्तपरिधि
क्वचवल्कलं ते
वल्कलं ते
वाचां परं चरणापञ्जरतितीर्णाम्
वाचं
वाचं
परं
परं
चरणपञ्जरतितीर्णाम्
चरणपञ्जरतितीरीणाम्
ब्रह्मन् अरूपमुखरां शृण्वां तोभ्यम्
ब्रह्मानरूपमुखरां
ब्रह्मानरूपमुखरां
शृण्वामतुभ्यम्
शृण्वामतुभ्यम्
लब्धा कदम्बरुचिरङ्कवितङ्कबिम्बे
लब्धा
लब्धा
कदम्बरुचिरङ्कविटङ्कबिम्बे
कदम्बरुचिराङ्कविताङ्कबिम्बे
यस्याम् अलातपरिधि क्वाचावकलं ते अवक्तं ते
यस्यामलान्तपरिधि
यस्यामलातपरिधि
क्वचवल्कलं ते
क्वचवल्कलं ते
Sorry,
Very nice. Hare Krishna.
welcome. Bakalam. Okay.
Okay, what by what meaning? Vacham,
Vacham.
Vacham,
the resounding vibration.
The
the
resounding
resounding vibration.
Param,
Param
Param,
only.
only
only.
Charana Panjara,
Charana
Charana Panjara
of the ankle bells.
of the ankle bells.
Titirinam,
Titirinam
of the titiri birds.
of the Titiri birds.
Brahman,
Brahman,
O Brahmana.
O Brahmana.
Arupa,
Arupa,
without form.
without form.
Mukharam,
Mukharam,
able to be very distinctly heard.
able
to
to
be
be very
very distinctly
distinctly
heard.
Shrinavama,
Shrinam.
I hear.
I
I
hear
hear
Tubhyam,
Tubhyam
your.
your
Labdha,
labdha
Labdha,
rotten.
gotten.
Kadamba,
Kadamba,
like the kadamba flower.
like the
like the
kadamba
Kadamba
flower.
flower.
Ruchihi,
Ruchihi,
lovely color.
Lovely
lovely
color.
color.
Anka vitanka bimbe,
Anka
Anka
Vitanka
vitanka
Bimbe,
बिंबे
on the beautiful circular hips.
on the beautiful circular
beautiful
hips.
circular hips.
Yashyam,
Yasham,
on which
on
On
which
which
alanta paridhi,
Alat
Alat
Paridhi,
Paridhi,
encirclement of burning cinders.
encirclement of
encirclement
burning
of
burning
burning
cinders.
cinders.
Kwa,
Kwa,
where,
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 cha,
yeah,
also,
also,
valkalam,
Balkalam,
Valkalam,
covering cloth,
covering
covering
cloth,
cloth.
te,
Te,
your.
your.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.
Right.
Jai.
Translation we read together. O Brahmana,
Brahmana.
O
O
Brahmana,
Brahmana,
I can simply hear
I can simply hear
the tinkling of your ankle bells.
the
the
tinkling of
tinkling
your
of your
ankle bell.
ankle bells.
Within those bells,
Within
Within
those
those
bells,
bells,
Titiri bird seems to be
titiri
titiri
birds
birds
seems to
seem
be
to be
chirping among themselves.
chirping
chirping
among
amongst
themselves.
themselves.
Although I do not see their forms,
Although
Although
I
I
do
do
not
not
see
see
their
their
forms,
forms,
I can hear how they are chirping.
I can
I can
hear
hear
how they
how
are
they are
chirping.
chirping.
When I look at your beautiful circular hips,
When
When
I
I
look at
look
your
at
beautiful
your
circular
beautiful
hips,
circular hips,
I see they are the lovely color of kadamba flowers,
I
I
see they
see
are
they
the
are the
lovely
lovely
color
color
of
of
Kadamba flowers.
Kadamba flowers.
and your waist is encircled
and your
And your
waist
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 is
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 encircled
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 by a belt of burning cinders.
by
by
a
a
belt
by
of
belt
a
of
burning
belt
burning
of
cinders.
burning
cinders.
cinders.
Indeed, you seem to have
Indeed,
Indeed,
you
you
seem
seem
to
You
to
seem to
have
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 forgotten to dress yourself.
forgotten to
forgotten
dress
forgotten
to
to
dress
dress
yourself.
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 The Bhaktivedanta purport. With lusty desires to see Purvachiti, Agnidhara especially gazed upon the girl's attractive hips and waist. When a man looks upon a woman with such lusty desires, he is captivated by her face, her breasts, and her waist. For a woman first attracts a man to fulfill his sexual desires by the beautiful features of her face, by the beautiful slope of her breast, and also by her waist. Purvachiti was dressed in fine yellow silk, and therefore her hips looks like a kadamba flower. Because of her belt, her waist seems to be encircled by burning cinders. She was fully dressed, but Agnidhara here becomes so lusty that he asked, "Why have you come naked?" Right. So, um, all right. Let's do the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshusmita Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manohishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadanti Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Shagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prajana Shaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देहि प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tvavakatamritam, Tvavajivanam, Om Kalmatapaham, Shravanamangalam, Shinavakatam, Bhuvignati. विभूरिदा जना भुवि गृह्णन्ति विभूरिदा जना जय गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Hare Krishna everyone. This is the continuation of the chapter for the activities of King Agnidhara. And now as we see that King Agnidhara is about to fulfill the desires for being a grihastha. And when he has that desire, then Brahma sent the celestial personality Purvachiti. Now these verses, like from now on until I think up to 20, um, when we hear these verses, it's very easy actually to get distracted by its external narrative. Like, when we hear the subject matters which get described. Obviously, King Agnidhara sees the celestial maiden, as it has been described, Purvachiti, and begins glorifying her beauty and speech. Um, so, at a first glance, it appears like, to be a romantic and also to some extent a kind of sensual exchange. Um, and one may wonder why such descriptions are included in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. When we read through these verses. But, however, the Bhagavatam never discusses anything without a spiritual perspective or a spiritual purpose. Um, every narration is meant to basically illuminate uh, some aspect of our relationship with Krishna. Everything that is in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is there because it's showing us that what's the and the beauty of it. It was 5,000 years ago the situation, and now the situation we can very easily relate. So that's why, therefore, before examining these verses only by themselves, it is important to understand the context, the background. So Agnidhara was like, as we have heard multiple times, but again, it's important to go through the background. Agnidhara was the son of great king Priyabrata, um, and Priyabrata's story is one of the most important lessons in Srimad Bhagavatam, and obviously in fifth canto, because it challenges many of our assumptions about spiritual life. When we try to do something in spiritual life without going through guru, sadhu, and shastra, and we want to take shortcuts, then there are lots of assumptions comes in, and we try to assume this, we try to assume that. But that's why it's important Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, that regular reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, because that actually clarifies the context. So Priyabrata wanted to remain renounced under the guidance of Narada Muni, as we know, but Lord Brahma, he specifically came from Satyaloka to instruct Priyabrata that to accept the worldly responsibilities and rule the universe. Why? It's because that was the instruction. That was the instruction from Brahma, and instruction came from Krishna, that what is needs to be done, and Krishna's service is more important than Priyavrata's personal preference for renunciation. So although it was from the right cause, but Krishna's instruction is more important. And Srila Prabhupada, in that context, repeated, explain in this many times, that it's very important to understand that Krishna consciousness is not about, it's just not only about being like a renunciate or a householder. It's not about being a brahmachari or a sannyasi or a grihastha. you know it's about being the becoming servant of Krishna. Jivera Sarupa hai Krishna Nityadas. So that is the main aim. Real spirituality, like as we spirituality is get discussed many times, but real spirituality doesn't get determined by external appearance, by where we are situating this spirituality doesn't get determined by that, but it gets determined by that person's consciousness. Priyabrata ruled the entire world, and yet he remained pure devotee. And that demonstrates the principle that we know, which is one of the main principle that in our spiritual life, that Srila Prabhupada, it was one of his favorite teachings that he mentioned most of the time, is utility is the principle. So that's very important to understand, that it's not about where we are situated. Don't judge a person based on that. A person can be any situation, but if that person is sincere enough, and if that person is having sincerely surrendered to the supreme personality of Godhead, then irrespective of his position, he or she will, their consciousness will be at the right place. We see that example like here, Priyabrata Maharaj, we in Chaitanya Chaitamrita we see the example of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, very famous king, very opulent, everything, but and by looking at his lifestyle, sometimes devotees, exalted devotees like Gadadhar Pandit also get amused and bewildered, how come this person everybody talks about, he is a exalted devotee, he's just around all these materialistic activities. But as soon as the Harinam, as soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi uh, hear Harinam, he just left everything, and he got that ecstasy, that he just he showed all the sign, when someone goes into that bhav, they show that sign of devotion, all the 64 signs, and then he was showing that, and that was again showed that point that it doesn't matter where someone is. So as this progress, we come to then after Priyavrata, we come to Agnidhara, and he is looking for a suitable wife, and Brahma sent Purvachiti, a celestial maiden, to him. Um, and obviously, after looking at her, Agnidhara become really captivated. But here also a very interesting point that to note, that what happens in this verse. Agnidhara actually didn't immediately glorify Purvachiti's bodily beauty. You know, he did, but the first, he actually got enchanted by her speech. He compares her words to the sweet birds like the titira, bird. I'm not sure if it is here, but I have seen back home, in Bengal, titir. It's a very small, like a sparrow, but it sings very when it's chirping, it's a very sweet sound. So that he compared her speech as a titira bird is singing from a cage, and what from of the cage of her beautiful teeth. So this is not it's just any poetic language, but it it actually shows that profound spiritual principle, that attraction may begin it may begin with appearance, but relationship for sustain, it had to sustain it, it is depending on communication, you know. So that's why our relationship with Krishna begins not only by seeing him but through hearing about him, you know. I'm sure, like, you know, you probably all, if your first experience of going to ISKCON temple was Mayapur or Vrindavan, or like some big temples, there was like first that awe and reverence, like, you know, because ISKCON temples are quite different from so-called other Indian temples. They can, like, you know, with all due respect, they don't get maintained very nicely, the other Indian temples, like, you know, the cleanliness. But when you come, like, I can tell my experience when I went to Mayapur, and when I was like maybe 10 or 12 years old. uh, so we went to Mayapur from Kolkata. We went to Mayapur, and we thought, okay, we are going to a place. It will be a temple like other temple. But first thing in Mayapur, I saw these big, big buildings. I was like, temples. It just this huge complex, and then yeah, I don't remember. Like, and I don't know if you remember those old days, like in 90s. There used to be the, like, how the Lotus building is now, like next to the temple. There was an entrance to, and that time the guest, like, you know, because that time they didn't have all this Ishodhyan Bhavan or Gita Bhavan, all those, they were not there. So uh, guests who used to come, they could take rooms in those buildings, and those buildings were decorated in a nice proper way to almost look like a five-star hotel. And I remember me, my cousin, we were like really surprised, like, you know, how this place is so wonderful, like, you know, it looks like a hotel. And then all this wonderful food stuff. At that point of time, we were looking at the, you know, the Mahaprasad stall. And the first time, I remember first time very distinctly, that I first time I saw pizza and pasta in Mayapur. And because in the evening when we went out, and they said, oh, this is Italian food. My like, you know, experience of temple was, you go, you get some fruit, you get some mixed sweet or something like that, and that's it. And here I'm looking at pasta, pizza. So obviously those kind of things, like, you know, create that attraction. But then again, like, you know, I came back from Mayapur, like, forget about it and things like that. But that relationship with Krishna, it it doesn't get sustained by looking at that. Yes, it creates some awe and reverence, but again, like, you know, after sometimes you forget about it. But the the relation starts to build when we start to hear about Krishna, you know. So that's why in devotional service, the first stage is Shravanam, right? You know, Prahlad Maharaj begins the 9 stages of devotion is with first with hearing about the Lord. So before before anything, like, you know, this is this, and like, you know, when a new devotee comes, um before before that person chant properly or serve properly, or even, like, you know, the main principle that always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. First thing is hearing. And as we see that the Vedic tradition also called Smriti, it actually, the tradition is based on hearing, like, you know, a generation after generation, they used to remember that what's the Vedic knowledge is, like, at that point of time, obviously they didn't have books and things like that. So from knowledge, so that's how the Vedic tradition is, that knowledge descent through hearing. And when that hearing happens, a sincere hearing, then faith develops through that hearing. And also love of Godhead, that also awakens through hearing. It's not that we have to create that love of Godhead in our heart. It's already there, it's already dormanted, but it needs to be, like, you know, awakened through the hearing. Like in Nectar of Devotion, like today morning, when we were reading Shinamrita, the quote, this quote was that from Nectar of Devotion, that Srila Prabhupada is writing, that when someone get bitten by a snake, you know what happened? They don't die. So they get cardiac arrest and they kind of go to coma. Now in the rural Bengal, there used to be this like local like doctors, like or like like they, you don't call them doctor, they are like kind of they know lots of medicines. But for this snake venom, there is a specific a class of people who actually have this knowledge, that from generation, when someone get bitten by a snake, they used to come and utter these mantras on the ear of that person who actually have got bitten. And after hearing that, after putting that mantra in their ear, they started to come back to consciousness. So it is that those mantras is so powerful, is it reduces the effect of the venom in the blood, so that they started to come out from coma. It is very interesting. It very you, if you don't see it, it's very hard to believe, but that's what happened. They have these mantras. So similarly, this mantra, and Prabhupada written there that for materialistic people, they are also in a coma. And for the spiritual realization to awaken, they need this Harinam, the Harinama Mahamantra. Like, Enichi, Jeev Jago, the famous song, it said that Enichi Oshudi Maya Nashibaro Lagi, Harinama Mahamantra Lao Tumi Magi. So this Harinam Mahamantra, I have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying that this is I brought here so that I can get you out of this from the clutches of Maya, under this coma that you are having. So that's why if we see Srila Prabhupada, this movement, ISKCON movement, is based on hearing and chanting, isn't it? It's Prabhupada, when he started, did he came with some big agenda? Did he sat down and start giving these political views of what's happening in Vietnam and how America should get out of this, and or what is the world peace formula? No. At the beginning, he just sat down and start chanting. And hearing those people at that point of time who were under the they were influence of drugs, their consciousness awakened after hearing that. So therefore, it's important to understand here that Agnidhar's this point regarding speech uh, points us towards one of the most fundamental truth about the spiritual life. It's actually what that the sound shapes our consciousness. And if we think, every day we are dealing with so much sound, every day we hear so many things. Every day we absorb thousands of words, either previously, before the social media and things like that, it was just we are talking with other people or over phone. Now with social media, we just looking at videos, looking at reels and things like that, and hundreds, and people are just keep scrolling, thousands and thousands of words coming from news, social media, entertainment, workplace, lots of things like family interaction, everything is coming, right? But how much of that actually give us genuine peace? If we try to analyze how much that give us enlightenment in a day, if we think, okay, today I heard this thing and it makes really sense. If you want to sit down and try to think about it, how much half of the thing I don't even remember what I have heard, right? Because and why it happens like this? It because sound is not neutral. Sound carries consciousness. It's very important to realize this, that sound carries consciousness. Material sound carries material consciousness. Spiritual sound carries spiritual consciousness. So whatever we repeatedly hear, eventually it's influence our consciousness, it's influence our desires, it's influence our values, it influence our behavior. You know, now can we join these dots that why Prabhupada has insisted us to read Srila Prabhupada's books every day. That is why, because when we are reading, when we are reading, when we are chanting, this influences things the consciousness. So therefore, in the age of Kali, as we see, the greatest battle is if I see myself and from outside, and if I'm a consumer, the greatest battle that all of them that they are trying to sell something to me is not to get my time, it's the to get my attention. So some or other, so that's why when you go through reels and things and social medias, and it's just everybody is trying to make something odd kind of things that it gets your attention. As soon as it gets your attention, it started to print in the mind. So that's why Maya does not need in this Kali Yuga to defeat us dramatically. Like Maya knows, Maya is very powerful. Devi Shi Gunamai Mama Maya Durutna is very powerful. Doesn't need to defeat us very dramatically. It can defeat us just simply enter through our ears. And that's why, again, coming back to that point of Srila Prabhupada, how he started this movement, is this entire movement, or we can say revolution, was based on sound vibration. He again, he didn't transform the hippies into devotees, into hippies into happies, as we used to say, or devotees through any other kind of influence. He didn't he didn't have political influence, or he didn't give them money or any status or something like that. He just simply made them hear kirtan and listening from Bhagavad Gita, and the consciousness changed because the hearing changed. The ears becomes the doorway through which through which Krishna actually enters our lives. That's why, if we want to know Krishna, it's not by seeing at Krishna, looking at Krishna, it's by hearing about Krishna. So that's why it's very, very important that what we hear, that we can control, and we try to focus as much as possible. So when we are chanting also, it's often said that when you're chanting, try to chant in such a way that you can hear yourself. The Maha Mantra, you can hear yourself, because that's how Krishna is entering into the heart. So that's why, the first thing that Agnidhara is about this, glorification, about he is appreciating the speech, and this speech sound is very important, the power of sound. Because once this sound, it's if it is it can be used in different ways. In the sound, how many times we have seen that this speech that we have, how many relationship has been damaged by that careless speech. How many we have seen that devotees became discouraged because of criticism, and how many simple just misunderstanding have arisen simply because someone spoke impulsively. When we are in a pressure situation, we become impulsive, and someone comes to you and said, "Oh, Prabhu, this didn't happen," you become impulsive, and you also say something "Why you are saying this to me? Go, you do yourself," and things like. And when this thing happened, sometimes the damage happen in such a way that the other person who is coming to do service, that person will not feeling motivated anymore. So that's why it's very important that when we use our speech, we use it in a way that actually doesn't damage us, rather than it's actually it actually can help to build someone's spiritual life. Only few kind words sometimes can transform someone. How many devotees probably you hear that they have actually heard some word of kindness from someone, and that was enough for them to remain in Krishna consciousness for their entire life. That's it, because they get that encourage because someone encouraged them at that right moment with kind words. So that's why Rupa Goswami said that in Nectar of Instruction, that the instruction to control the urge to speak, most like Vacho Vegam, first thing, Vacho Vegam, this vague coming to say something. Like we are like, want to say something. Like, even in a meeting, as soon as the meeting starts, like, no, I want to say something, I want to say something. Like, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly explained that most problem comes in spiritual communities arise not because of philosophy, but from uncontrolled speech. It that someone has made some point, a comment, and that other person has taken it, and it's first things like who that person who has sent. Sometimes we can see that someone is doing which is not right, but depend how we are presenting it to it. Sometimes there is this three thing: the message itself, the mode, and the manner. Most of the time the message is right. Like you are saying someone is doing a wrong thing, so you want to give them a message. Your message is right, but the way, the manner, and the mood, how it is, that actually overshadows that message. If someone goes and we very harshly say something, hey, you are doing it wrong, why you're doing it, don't you understand, this is not a spiritual philosophy, how like you have been here for so long and you are behaving like this, blah blah blah. That person, whatever he or she has done wrong, doesn't even understand that. That person is just listening that this person is saying, oh, that I am not a worthy person, I'm this, I'm that, okay, I'm leaving. So it just causes unnecessary harm. And what happened that when that harm happens, then no matter how much we try to be pleasant, it's just not enough to fix that situation. So that's why it is said in Vaishnava etiquette for a Vaishnava, they learn the art of speaking in a way that elevates others and bring them closer to Krishna. One time, His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj, he gave a entire seminar on art of speech, which is very very important for our community, because most of the time the problem starts from there. So then, just coming and after that we come to the next part, that what is the practical lesson from today's verse, what we should ask. Here we see that how Agnidhara's heart is captured by this by Purvachiti's features and the sound. We also need to ask ourselves honestly that what has captured my heart, what has captured our heart, um, not what should capture my heart or what used to capture my heart, but what is actually occupying my thoughts today. Is it Krishna? It's in my heart. Is it service? Is it spiritual growth? Or some other things, some other attraction that is taking there? And these subtle attractions like pratishtha, prestige, recognition, influence, this kind of thing, they can quietly replace Krishna at the center of our life. So Srila Prabhupada repeatedly mentioned that prestige is actually one of the greatest obstacle in spiritual life, because it's kind of distinguished. So Maya is very intelligent. Maya distinguish. Maya Maya deceives. The prestige, it actually comes as it disguises itself as a service. Sometimes we may appear externally engaged while internally seeking recognition. Therefore it's very important that we constantly examine our motives and pray to Krishna that Krishna, please Krishna, keep yourself in the center of my heart, in the center of attraction. Because what captured our hearts, that is very important. Because this verse that we are reading, today's verse and next verses, it's actually in a way it's an invitation to redirect our attraction towards Krishna. Agnidhara becomes enchanted by the celestial personality, right? But for devotees, seeks to become enchanted by the sweet sound, like the sound vibration in existence. That's what we discuss. The holy name of the Lord, the Harina, the all the sounds in the world. Out of that, the holy name is the most powerful one, most sweet one. And this sound has the power to purify the heart and awaken the heart. Attraction is not bad. For a second, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is not in any way, it doesn't say that attraction is bad, you know. But what we need is that purify that attraction. As a human being, we will be always attracted. You know what to say? Krishna's name, the meaning of the name is all attractive. So we have to be attracted. There is no way that we can say that, okay, I'm just sitting here and I'll not be attracted towards anything. No. The attraction needs to be purified. And how it is going to be purified is that through the Mahamantra. So that's why the lesson that what we can take these verses which is coming, and rather than going through the external narrative, what we need to understand that this attraction is temporary attraction, and we have to focus on the eternal attraction. So from material, so something which is material attraction to the spiritual attraction, from something fascinated like which is fascinates us in this material world, we shouldn't get attracted by that, rather than we get attracted towards Krishna. So that's why as we finish today's class, let us reflect deeply on this question, that what has captured my heart. Because whatever has captured my heart today, that actually is going to determine our destination for tomorrow. If we allow Krishna's name, then Krishna's name, devotees, Krishna's instruction, everything, then all the other attraction will start to fade away. And we will that there will be, it's going to happen that we will discover that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Hare Krishna, thank you. It is 8:31. Just went a little bit over time, but just thought that to share these points with you. So before we finish, if anyone wants to add any comment or any point, and then we can close today's session. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Somendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for the class. I was just thinking that these verses which we are reading these days, talking about the woman or her attractive features and all these things. Actually, this is actually Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you mentioned, is teaching us that these things can distract a person. But for a devotee, the beauty of Krishna is beyond all these material things which we see. So actually, this is a lesson for us, that most beautiful person is Krishna. And these things which we see in the material world, and which is, we know that they are so attractive, but it gives us a warning that we have to actually think of Krishna and Krishna's beauty than these things. So sometimes people say, why they are writing these things in Bhagavatam? You also mentioned that. Why they are talking about these lusty desires and women's attractive features. So actually this is a lesson for us, that we have to actually direct our desires towards the beauty of Krishna. That's what I just wanted to say, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for your class, and thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Haribol Prabhuji, thank you for class today, and thank you, Kadambini Mataji. That feedback was awesome. I just wanted to say, Prabhuji, it might be a little bit off track here, but gosh, the quality of your classes, and I mean this sincerely, please take it the right way. Your classes are awesome, Prabhuji. You're really speaking very nicely. And I don't know if it's just the social worker in me reacting to it, but yeah, I'm really impressed, Prabhu. You very nice quality content in your delivery. So thank you very much. Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji. Thanks all your appreciation and kind words. It's something that I just wanted to present, something that I thought, like, in a way that it makes sense to me. So yeah, but there are lots of things that also needs lots of improvement from my side. So thank you very much. Okay, we finish it here. We will again meet tomorrow. Vancha kalpataruvasya kripasindhu vayacha patithanam
Patinam Pavane Vev Vaishnav
Namo
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 Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Ki Jai.
Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Ki Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the service. Even if you are feeling a little bit unwell, we can say. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
His
His Grace.
Grace Somendra Krishna Das Prabhuji ki Jai.
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 With the Gaurav Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Jai.